In the night, Daniel had a vision that would forever change his understanding of history and the world. As he looked into the darkness, something extraordinary began to unfold. Before we begin, a small request. Most of the people listening tonight aren't subscribed. If this channel has ever helped you drift off, take a moment to subscribe. It's free, it helps this channel more than you think, and you can always change your mind later. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I love reading them. One more thing before we begin. I'm also a co-founder of a sleep app, built to be the most affordable one out there. No ads, ever. Just sounds and stories made to help you sleep. It may not be released yet as this video goes up, but if you're watching a little later, it might be out by now. Just search for it, it should be easy to find. It works on iPhone, Android, and everything in between. Downloading it is the best way to support this channel. The vision unfolds in the darkness, revealing something profound and symbolic. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me were the four winds of heaven churning up the Great Sea. The Great Sea is not just any body of water, it is a primal force, representative of the deepest, most ancient waters on Earth, the primeval sea. This isn't merely a physical description, it carries layers of meaning. The winds, blowing from all directions, north, south, east, west, represent the universal and comprehensive nature of divine action. The winds stir up the Great Sea, causing it to churn and foam. This isn't a calm or tranquil scene, it's one of turmoil and unrest. But why the Great Sea? Why not just any sea? The Great Sea symbolizes something much larger than itself. It is a representation of humanity and worldly events. The churning waters signify the upheaval and unrest that often characterize human history. Consider that in Daniel's vision, 4 beasts emerge from the sea. These creatures are symbols of future kingdoms and their ultimate fate. The Great Sea is not just a geographical entity, but a metaphorical one, embodying the tumultuous nature of human affairs and divine intervention in them. In this vision, God is not a distant observer, but an active participant. The winds blowing over the Great Sea indicate his ongoing role in historical events. Moreover, the Great Sea is not just any body of water, it represents the Mediterranean Sea symbolically. This is where much of human history has played out. But there's another layer to this. The Great Sea also stands for the primeval sea, the chaotic waters that existed before creation. This churning primeval sea represents the unrest and chaos that preceded the establishment of order in the world. Thus, the Great Sea is a symbolic representation of humanity and worldly events, both in their historical context and in their deeper, primal nature. In biblical context, the 4 winds are not mere meteorological phenomena, but powerful symbols embedded with deep meaning and significance. They represent agents of chaos and disorder, stirring up the Great Sea, a potent image that has captivated scholars for centuries. Their stirring action over the Great Sea symbolizes unrest and divine judgment, foretelling significant changes to come. This prophetic message culminates in a vision of future kingdoms, their rise, their dominance, and ultimately, their fate at the hands of God. Understanding how these winds operate within Daniel's vision reveals a crucial aspect of divine governance over humanity and worldly events. This insight prepares us for the ultimate revelation, that God's judgment is not arbitrary, but part of a grand design unfolding throughout history. As Daniel gazed into the churning sea, 4 monumental beasts began to rise from its depths. Each beast emerged with unique characteristics and symbolism. The first beast to surface was described as a lion with eagle's wings. This beast's composite nature signifies the powerful and swift judgment that God brings upon earthly kingdoms. The second beast was unlike any other, with bear's traits yet raised up on one side. This peculiar form suggests the divisive and unequal dominion of certain rulers over their subjects. The third beast, rising next, had the appearance of a leopard, but with 4 wings and 4 heads. Its multi-headed nature indicates the extensive and far-reaching control, Some kingdoms exert over vast territories. The fourth beast was different altogether, terrifyingly strong and devouring all in its path. Its formidable strength symbolizes the relentless and devastating power of the final kingdoms before their ultimate judgment. Each beast's unique characteristics and symbolism foreshadow the rise and fall of future kingdoms. Prepare for the next revelation, the identification of these beasts as specific kingdoms and their ultimate fate. The second beast rises, bearing the features of a bear. This symbolizes Medo-Persia, known for its ferocity and dominance. A leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads emerges next. This is Greece, swift and agile, yet divided into parts. Finally, a terrifying beast with 10 horns appears. This is Rome, powerful and formidable, its reign marked by conflict and conquest. These beasts represent the successive kingdoms that will shape history, each with its own unique characteristics and fates. Each beast's features hint at the nature of its reign, powerful yet transient, fierce and dominating, swift and divided, formidable and conflict-ridden. The angel reveals that these beasts are not merely historical events, but a divine message about the ultimate fate of these kingdoms. As Daniel looks deeper, he sees a final vision of the Ancient of Days, signaling the end of these empires and the establishment of an everlasting kingdom. This vision carries profound significance. God is actively involved in historical events, orchestrating the rise and fall of empires. Amidst the tumultuous sea, Daniel sees a figure emerging from the chaos, the saints of the Most High. These are not ordinary figures. They represent those who have been faithful to God throughout history. Daniel's vision indicates that these saints will receive a kingdom, an eternal reign that is their rightful inheritance. This kingdom is not merely temporary, it is to be possessed forever by the faithful. Such a promise carries profound implications about divine judgment and reward for those who remain steadfast in their faith. It signifies that even as empires rise and fall, there is a higher order at work, one that ensures justice and eternal blessing for the faithful. In this vision, Daniel offers a glimpse into a future where faithfulness is rewarded with an eternal kingdom, a promise that stands as a beacon of hope amidst the tumultuous tides of history. This creature symbolizes the kingdom of Babylon, known for its swift conquests and dominance. Next, the angel turns to the second beast, which has a bear's body and 3 ribs in its mouth. This beast represents the kingdom of Medo-Persia, notable for its dual nature and expansive rule. The angel then interprets the third beast, which has one side like a leopard and another like a bear. This creature signifies the kingdom of Greece, renowned for its swift and forceful conquests. Finally, the angelic being reveals the fourth beast, a terrifying creature with iron teeth and bronze claws. This beast embodies the kingdom of Rome, known for its unparalleled power and enduring legacy. As Daniel listens to these interpretations, he begins to understand the profound message behind each beast. Each kingdom has its time and purpose, but ultimately faces divine judgment. Each beast represents a historical kingdom: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome. Their rise and fall are not random events, but part of God's grand design. Beyond the historical context, these beasts symbolize something even more profound, a prophetic message about future earthly kingdoms and their ultimate fate. This message is a reminder that God's control extends over all earthly powers, guiding them towards an ultimate end determined by His divine plan. Political and social agitations disturb world history as God sees all actions and judges not just our deeds, but also our hearts. Their ultimate fate is revealed through the symbolism of these beasts, a powerful spiritual message about God's control over historical events and His divine plan. As the vision concludes, we are reminded that God's ultimate reward is reserved for the faithful who persevere through these kingdoms' upheavals. This message is a beacon of hope, a spiritual truth that the eternal kingdom is reserved for those who remain steadfast and faithful through the trials of history's tumultuous tides. To better understand God's active role in historical events, let us delve into the timeline of key civilizations mentioned in Daniel's prophecy. First, we look to the Babylonian exile. In 506 BCE, the Babylonians under King Nebuchadnezzar II conquered Jerusalem and took many of its inhabitants captive. This period marked a significant turning point in Jewish history, with the Temple of Solomon being destroyed and the people taken into captivity. Next in our timeline is the Medo-Persian Empire. After the Babylonians, the Medes and Persians rose to prominence. Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple in 538 BCE. Following this era came the Empire of Alexander the Great. His conquests spread Hellenistic culture across the known world. After Alexander's death, his empire was divided among his generals, but the influence of Greek culture persisted. Lastly, we reach the Roman Empire. Established around 27 BCE under Augustus Caesar, it became one of the most powerful and long-lasting empires in history. Under Roman rule, Jerusalem faced significant changes and ultimately fell in the Great Jewish Revolt of 70 CE. Through these historical events, God's active role in human affairs is clearly evident. With this historical context established, we can now delve deeper into the prophetic message Daniel's vision holds for future kingdoms. In biblical prophecies, the sea is a potent symbol often associated with chaos and divine judgment. For instance, in Revelation 21, John sees a new heaven and a new earth, signifying the end of chaos and judgment. The Book of Psalms also references the sea in this context, with Psalm 46,002-3 describing how even the mighty waters cannot shake God's kingdom. In fact, the imagery of seas and storms is a recurring theme in biblical prophecies. The turbulent seas in these visions symbolize divine judgment on the earth and the unrest among nations. This interpretation is not merely metaphorical, it carries profound spiritual significance. The sea represents the vast expanse of humanity, and the divine judgment upon it is a call to repentance. This theme is echoed in other biblical texts, reinforcing the idea of divine sovereignty over historical events. Beyond the calming stillness of a quiet night, the Bible reveals another dimension where the winds themselves are active agents of divine change. The image of wind in the Bible is not passive, but dynamic, reflecting God's active role in bringing about transformative events. Their role is to execute God's will, symbolizing the ultimate authority and fairness of divine judgment over human choices. This prophetic message about future kingdoms highlights God's control over earthly affairs, a comforting and awe-inspiring truth. Daniel's prophetic insights do not stop at these earthly kingdoms. They extend into the end times as described in other biblical passages like Revelation and Daniel 12. Despite the turmoil depicted in Daniel's vision, there is a comforting truth. God's control over these historical events and future kingdoms is absolute. First among them was the Babylonian Empire, known for its grandeur and might. Babylon's king, Nebuchadnezzar, ruled with an iron fist, building wonders like the Hanging Gardens and the Ishtar Gate. But power is fickle, and after Nebuchadnezzar's reign came the Medo-Persian Empire, a formidable force that would conquer Babylon. Under Cyrus the Great, this empire expanded rapidly, incorporating regions from Asia Minor to the Indus Valley. Their conquest was swift and decisive, but they did not go unchallenged. Soon after came the Greek Empire, with Alexander the Great at its helm. Alexander's campaigns were legendary, spreading Hellenistic culture across vast territories from Greece to modern-day Pakistan. From the campaigns of Alexander, we turn to another significant historical figure, Daniel. In his visionary narrative, Daniel employs powerful metaphors to reveal God's active role in historical events. In biblical literature, seas often represent vast expanses of humanity and the nations of the world. In ancient Jewish culture, winds also carry significance as carriers of divine messages and agents of change. Their rise from the sea is a metaphor for the emergence of these kingdoms and their influence on world history. The Angelic Interpreter clarifies that these beasts will ultimately fall under the sovereignty of God and his eternal kingdom. By exploring these metaphors, we gain insight into the profound ways God interacts with and judges human history. Daniel's prophetic role in history is profoundly significant, offering insights into God's active involvement in human events. Other significant prophets mentioned in the Bible include Elijah, Isaiah, and Jeremiah. Each of these figures played a crucial part in conveying divine messages to their respective communities. For instance, Elijah's confrontations with the false prophets of Baal and his miraculous experiences demonstrated God's power over nature. Isaiah, meanwhile, delivered prophecies about the coming Messiah and the future of Israel. Jeremiah warned of the impending destruction of Jerusalem, providing a stark reminder of God's judgment on unfaithful nations. Thus, Daniel's prophetic role in biblical history is not just about foretelling future events, but also about revealing the divine plan that guides and judges human history. This prophetic message serves as a reminder that political agitations and social disturbances are part of a larger divine narrative. As these kingdoms rise and fall, the eternal kingdom remains steadfast, reminding us of God's ultimate authority and judgment. In the ancient world, the winds were more than just weather phenomena. They represented the active force of divine sovereignty, a power that shaped historical events and guided the course of kingdoms. This divine sovereignty is affirmed throughout Scripture. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, declares Psalm 24. Isaiah 40:28 emphasizes this further. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. Through the symbolism of the four winds, Daniel's vision reveals God's active role in historical events. In Isaiah 51:15, the sea is described as a creature that swallows up its inhabitants and is seen as a force of chaos. Revelation 13,001:2 depicts a cosmic battle between good and evil, where a beast rises from the sea, signifying the Gentile nations. This beast, arising from the sea, represents the power and influence that Gentile nations wield. In the ancient city of Nineveh, for instance, God sent the prophet Jonah to warn of impending doom. Jonah's message was clear: 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. But the people of Nineveh heeded his warning. They repented from their evil ways and averted the judgment that was upon them. But divine judgment did not stop with Nineveh. In the book of Jeremiah, God's judgment was pronounced on the great city of Babylon. Jeremiah prophesied that the most proud kingdoms will be made desolate, and sure enough, Babylon's days of glory were numbered. Its once mighty empire crumbled under the weight of its own hubris. Through these examples, and many more, Daniel's vision illustrates how God's judgment shapes human history. It is a warning that future kingdoms and their inhabitants must heed. This Son of Man, later identified as Jesus Christ in the New Testament, symbolizes a shift from human dominion to divine rule. Revelation 11,005 echoes this theme, declaring that the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever. This is a powerful prophecy indicating the ultimate fate of earthly powers. Every kingdom that has risen and fallen will one day be replaced by God's eternal reign. This is a comforting truth for those who await the promises of God. The Ancient of Days, in Daniel's vision, represents timeless wisdom and authority, a stark contrast to the transient nature of human empires. As earthly powers crumble under divine judgment, the eternal kingdom emerges as an unshakable reality that will stand for eternity. This transition from temporal to eternal is not a mere shift in political landscape, but a profound spiritual transformation. It serves as a reminder that even the mightiest of earthly kingdoms are subject to the sovereignty of the heavens. In Ezekiel's vision, for instance, the prophet sees 4 living creatures, each with 4 faces and 4 wings. These creatures are described as having the appearance of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle, symbolizing different aspects of divine sovereignty. Similarly, in Zechariah's prophecy, the four spirits of heaven are depicted as horses of different colours. These visions reveal a consistent prophetic pattern, God's active intervention in historical events. Nebuchadnezzar II's reign saw a series of military campaigns that expanded Babylonian territory significantly. This empire's reach extended from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean, encompassing lands like Egypt and Syria. The Babylonians were known for their sophisticated irrigation systems and impressive architecture. Among the empire's notable accomplishments was the construction of the Ishtar Gate in Babylon. This gate featured intricate blue glazed bricks that depicted lions, symbolizing power and protection. Meanwhile, the Medes and Persians were growing in power to the east. Cyrus II, also known as Cyrus the Great, was making his mark on history with his conquests. In 529 BCE, Cyrus II captured Babylon and brought an end to the Neo-Babylonian Empire. This event was monumental, marking a shift in global power dynamics. These wins symbolize the chaotic and disruptive forces that often accompany significant historical changes. They serve as a reminder of God's active role in shaping world events. Daniel 4030 states, "And he was driven away from people. His mind was changed to that of an animal. He lived with the wild donkeys and he ate grass like the oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, until he acknowledged that the Most High God is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth, indicating divine retribution for moral corruption." The Medo-Persian Empire, while initially tolerant of different religions, eventually imposed Zoroastrianism across its conquered territories, leading to religious persecution and intolerance. In the Book of Esther, King Xerxes' decree to annihilate the Jews shows a disregard for human life that aligns with biblical warnings against murder and injustice. Greek philosophy often celebrated reason and logic over faith, leading many into skepticism and godlessness. This intellectual climate contributed to a moral decline where ethical boundaries were frequently challenged. Rome's decadence is well documented, with emperors like Caligula and Nero exhibiting extreme cruelty and immorality, reflecting a society that had turned away from divine principles. Scriptures, such as Romans 1028-22, illustrate this moral decay. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them over to a depraved mind, to do what ought not to be done. Throughout the Old Testament, the theme of moral decay preceding divine retribution is consistent. God intervenes in human affairs when justice and righteousness are undermined. Each beast represents a political entity or kingdom that rises and falls within the sweep of history. Their fate is sealed as they are judged by God's divine authority. Unlike earthly kingdoms, which are governed by human rulers subject to their own flaws and limitations, the eternal kingdom is ruled by God Himself, whose sovereignty is perfect and unchanging. The attributes of this divine kingdom include justice, righteousness, and everlasting peace qualities that set it apart from the temporal powers that are marked by moral decay and injustice. In contrast to the fleeting nature of earthly kingdoms, the eternal kingdom is permanent and unshakable. It offers security and stability that cannot be found in transient empires, which are subject to constant change and decay. Daniel's prophetic message underscores the superiority of God's kingdom over all temporal powers. It serves as a reminder that while earthly kingdoms may rise and fall, the eternal kingdom stands firm forever. This divine restoration serves as a powerful reminder that God's sovereignty extends beyond just judgment. It includes the ability to bring order and calm after periods of turmoil. The imagery of a calm sea can be deeply comforting, indicating that after the storms of life, there is potential for serene times ahead. Moreover, it underscores the divine promise that God does not leave us in our tumultuous states, but actively works towards bringing peace and order into our lives. Ultimately, this scene of a calm sea signifies that no matter how chaotic things may seem, divine restoration is always possible. In Daniel's vision, the four winds of heaven are more than just a meteorological phenomenon. They hold profound spiritual significance. For instance, in John 3008, it says, "The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. This verse emphasizes the mysterious and unpredictable nature of God's work in the world. In Acts 2002, on the day of Pentecost, a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. This event marks the descent of the Holy Spirit upon the apostles, demonstrating God's active role in historical events. It deepens our understanding of how God uses historical events to guide us towards ultimate restoration and judgment. Next comes a beast like a bear, raised on one side with 3 ribs in its mouth. This represents the Medo-Persian Empire, which expanded through strategic alliances and territorial gains. The third beast is like a leopard with 4 birds' wings on its back. This symbolizes the Greek Empire, renowned for its swift military campaigns and widespread influence. Finally, a terrifying beast with iron teeth and 10 horns appears. This beast signifies the Roman Empire, marked by its immense power and enduring legacy. God's sovereignty is evident through the rise and fall of these kingdoms, underscoring his ultimate control over human history. This vision reveals God's active role in human affairs, guiding us towards restoration and judgment through the ebb and flow of worldly powers. As we look back at history, we see God's hand at work in the unfolding of these kingdoms and their ultimate fate. Today, Daniel's vision still holds profound relevance. It serves as a divine message, guiding us through our contemporary faith and actions. Understanding divine judgment influences our faith today, prompting us to consider the consequences of our actions. This prophetic message offers hope and restoration, demonstrating that even in the face of divine judgment, there is a path to redemption. For believers today, this message is both a warning and an encouragement, a reminder of God's ultimate authority and fairness. It encourages us to live in alignment with God's will, knowing that our choices have consequences and that divine judgment is a reality. The enduring significance of Daniel's vision lies in its depiction of God's ongoing interaction with humanity. It serves as a beacon, guiding us through the complexities of our world and reminding us that despite earthly turbulence, divine restoration is possible. Daniel's vision is a beacon, illuminating the intricate tapestry of human history where divine interventions shape and reshape the fates of kingdoms. It's within these pages that we find evidence of God's historical interventions, woven into narratives of empires rising and falling. The rise of Medo-Persia, symbolized by the bear with 3 ribs in its mouth, followed Babylon's collapse. Cyrus's conquest marked a new epoch, one where divine judgment and the march of history were entwined. And then came Greece, represented by the leopard with 4 heads. Alexander the Great's empire was swift and expansive, reflecting God's active role in shaping global dynamics. But like all empires, it too crumbled under its own weight. Through these historical accounts, we see God's hand guiding the tides of history. Each empire rose and fell in accordance with divine will, showing us that nothing happens outside of God's purview. Following the lion, a second beast rises from the sea, a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth. This imagery points to the kingdom of Medo-Persia, which rose through conquest and subjugated other nations. The 3 ribs symbolize its division into 3 parts, reflecting the historical splintering of this vast empire. The third beast appears as a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, embodying the swiftness and ferocity of the Greek Empire. With its rapid conquests and vast influence, this empire left an indelible mark on history, particularly in the realms of culture and philosophy. Through the lens of Daniel's prophecy, we can better understand how today's geopolitical landscape is shaped by divine providence. Whether we see the emergence of new global powers or the resurgence of old ones, each plays a role in God's greater narrative. In closing, Daniel's vision of future empires serves as a powerful reminder that history is not merely a series of random events. Rather, it is a grand tapestry woven by the hand of God, guiding us toward an ultimate purpose and fate. As we consider these prophetic insights, let us find comfort in knowing that even the greatest powers of our world are subject to divine will. In this understanding lies a profound sense of order and purpose in an ever-changing world. With this perspective, we can approach the complexities of our modern age with both wisdom and faith, trusting that even the most formidable empires of today are but threads in God's grand design. Consider the case of ancient Babylon, a civilization renowned for its opulence and technological advancements. Yet, despite its grandeur, Babylon faced divine judgment, as chronicled in the book of Jeremiah. The prophet foretold that Babylon would be destroyed and left desolate, a fate that came to pass with the city's fall. This judgment underscored God's ultimate authority over human kingdoms, demonstrating that even the mightiest empires are subject to his will. Nineveh, known for its brutality and idolatry, was given a chance to repent from its wicked ways. Jonah's preaching led to a mass conversion among the people of Nineveh, showing that divine judgment can also bring about spiritual renewal. Turning our gaze to Sodom and Gomorrah, another instance of divine judgment highlights God's intolerance for moral depravity. The city's corruption was met with fiery destruction, leaving behind a stark reminder of the consequences of unrighteous living. These examples illustrate that divine judgment is not arbitrary, but is a response to human actions and heart conditions. The lasting impact of these judgments serves as a sobering reminder to future generations about the enduring consequences of disobedience. In each case, divine judgment has left indelible marks on civilizations, shaping their trajectories and fates. As we delve deeper into Daniel's vision, it becomes clear that God's role is not merely reactive, but proactive in guiding human history towards its ultimate destiny. With this perspective, we understand that divine judgment is not an isolated event, but a continuous thread woven into the tapestry of human history. In Revelation 20,006, the blessed and holy are said to reign with Christ for 1,000 years. This millennial reign symbolizes the establishment of divine order amidst the chaos of human history. Unlike earthly empires, which often crumble under their own weight, this eternal kingdom is characterized by its enduring nature. It promises stability and continuity that transcend time. The New Jerusalem, as described in Revelation 21,027, embodies the characteristics of God's eternal reign. It is a place of unparalleled beauty and harmony where there is no more sorrow or death. In contrast to the earthly empires, which are marred by injustice and strife, God's eternal kingdom offers justice, peace, and righteousness. It is a realm where the glory of God permeates every aspect of life. The promises of this eternal kingdom are not mere wishes, but firm guarantees rooted in divine sovereignty. It is a realm where the faithful are secure and the broken-hearted find comfort. This vision of an eternal kingdom serves as a reminder that despite the turmoil in human history, there is a greater purpose and plan behind it all. God's judgment and establishment of his everlasting reign ultimately culminate in this promise. This ultimate fate of earthly kingdoms and the promise of an eternal reign offer hope and solace in the face of human history's uncertainties. In this light, we see that divine judgment is not an end in itself, but a means to usher in a new era of peace and righteousness under God's reign. The eternal kingdom, as envisioned by Daniel, is not just a future hope, but an ongoing reality that sustains the faithful through the vicissitudes of human history. The four winds represent the active intervention of God in human affairs, stirring up the Great Sea, a symbol of the nations and peoples of the world. This divine activity is not simply a means of destruction, but also an instrument of spiritual awakening. In the context of Daniel's vision, the Great Sea stands for the vast expanse of humanity and their diverse cultures. The winds blowing over this sea signify God's sovereignty and his active role in guiding history towards a specific end, a spiritual renewal among those who follow him faithfully. The churning of the Great Sea by these winds symbolizes the upheaval and transformation that precedes spiritual awakening. Just as a storm on the ocean can clear the skies and bring calm, so too divine interventions prepare us for a profound encounter with God's grace. This spiritual awakening is not just about personal enlightenment, it also points to a collective revival, where the community of believers comes together in renewed faith and hope. the winds blowing across the Great Sea highlight God's comprehensive plan for his people throughout history. Daniel's vision underscores that even amidst trials and judgments, there is a divine purpose: to awaken faith and prepare his people for the ultimate spiritual reality. This prophetic message offers hope and guidance in our own times of uncertainty and upheaval. As we reflect on Daniel's vision, it is essential to remember that God's active role in history goes beyond judgment. It also includes nurturing and guiding his people towards a deeper faith and spiritual maturity. This spiritual awakening is an ongoing process where believers are continually refined and strengthened by the winds of divine intervention. It serves as a reminder that even in times of great upheaval, there is always hope for renewal and growth in faith. Highlighting God's active role in fostering spiritual growth amidst divine judgment, we find solace and strength to navigate the complexities of our world today. Daniel's vision assures us that through every storm, there is a promise of renewal and a deeper connection with our Creator. The four winds symbolize not only God's power, but also his sovereignty over the world, encompassing all directions and influences. In various contexts throughout the Bible, these four winds represent God's comprehensive control over the earth's affairs, ensuring that his justice prevails. Through these actions, we see how God's mandate for justice and righteousness is upheld, even amidst turmoil and change. This prophetic revelation speaks not only of divine judgment, but also of a future where God's kingdom prevails. This divine judgment, while tumultuous, serves as a prelude to the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. This prophetic message comforts those facing divine judgment, reminding them of the ultimate restoration and redemption to come. This imagery is not mere symbolism, but a profound statement about God's active role in historical events. In biblical terms, purification often involves God's cleansing of the earth from corruption and sin. The four winds in Daniel's vision can be seen as agents of divine purification, preparing the world for a new order. Consider the fall of Babylon. This ancient city, once a symbol of power and grandeur, met its end through divine judgment. The book of Jeremiah prophesies this fall, stating that Babylon will be overthrown and become a dwelling place for jackals. Similarly, the Exodus from Egypt is another instance where God's hand is evident in shaping history through judgment. The 10 plagues inflicted upon the Egyptians serve as a stark reminder of God's active role in historical events. These plagues culminate in the death of the firstborn, a decisive blow that leads to the Israelites' liberation. Such instances underscore God's sovereignty over human affairs and his active role in judging nations. Ultimately, these judgments pave the way for a new order shaped by God's will and purpose. Consider the account in Revelation 7001, where an angel holds back the four winds to prevent them from harming the earth until a divine seal is placed on the foreheads of God's servants. This passage underscores the biblical understanding of wind as both an instrument of chaos and an emblem of God's sovereignty over historical events. The second beast is depicted as a bear, signifying the Greek Empire. This kingdom was marked by its strength and territorial expansion. Daniel's vision then shows a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, corresponding to the Roman Empire. This empire is characterized by its swift movements and widespread dominion. Finally, Daniel sees a terrifying beast with iron teeth and 10 horns, symbolizing a future kingdom that will come to pass. This beast, unlike the others, has a unique significance in God's prophetic message. Each of these beasts represents a historical kingdom, with their characteristics aligning with actual events from the Medo-Persian, Greek, and Roman empires. The accuracy with which these historical kingdoms are depicted in Daniel's prophecy underscores the reliability of God's message and his control over world events. Daniel's vision thus offers both a historical perspective and a prophetic message about future kingdoms, emphasizing God's sovereignty over all. Among these beasts is a lion with eagle's wings, representing the Babylonian Empire, followed by a bear raising itself on one side, symbolizing Medo-Persia. Next appears a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, embodying the Greek Empire, and finally a terrifying beast with 10 horns signifying Rome. The vision culminates in the revelation of an Ancient of Days taking his seat, representing God himself and establishing a kingdom that will never be destroyed or given to another people. This eternal kingdom is described in Revelation 19:6 as the marriage supper of the Lamb, where Christ reigns with his saints for eternity. It is in this context that we understand God's sovereignty over all historical events and the ultimate fate of earthly powers, as foretold through Daniel's vision. This reassuring message underscores the culminating prophecy that despite the rise and fall of earthly empires, God's eternal kingdom will prevail, offering a beacon of hope for those who put their faith in him. For those who put their faith in him, this prophetic message serves as a beacon of hope, a promise that despite the tumult of worldly empires, God's eternal kingdom will ultimately reign. Daniel's vision reveals an intricate tapestry of events that span from ancient kingdoms to the end times. Historically, these kingdoms have been interpreted as the Babylonian Empire, Medo-Persian Empire, Greek Empire, and Roman Empire. As the timeline unfolds, each beast meets its end, symbolizing the downfall of these worldly kingdoms. Ultimately, this vision reminds us of God's sovereignty over all events and his fair judgment in the affairs of humanity. In this historical timeline, the end is not chaos but a promise of an eternal reign. The Bible is filled with accounts of civilizations that rose to great heights, only to be brought down by their own corruption and moral decline. Consider the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, cities so wicked that God decided they must be destroyed. The moral decay in these cities was evident. Their inhabitants were known for their selfishness and lack of hospitality. Even the righteous Lot, who lived among them, was appalled by their behavior. God's judgment fell swiftly and decisively, wiping out these cities as a clear warning against such moral decay. Similarly, the Babylonian Empire, known for its opulence and technological advancements, ultimately fell due to its pride and idolatry. These historical accounts illustrate that moral decay is a precursor to divine judgment. The third beast is described as a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, indicating the rapid expansion of Greece's influence across multiple fronts. Daniel's prophecy is remarkable because it foretells the rise and fall of these empires before they even exist. Babylon rises swiftly, symbolized by the lion with eagle's wings, and falls amid internal strife. Medo-Persia grows in power but is marred by division, illustrated by its extra mouth and ribs. Greece spreads rapidly across the known world, depicted as a leopard with multiple wings and heads. Rome's power is brutal and enduring, symbolized by its iron teeth. With the rise and fall of empires depicted in Daniel's vision, we turn to one of the most significant instances of divine restoration in history, the Babylonian exile and the rebuilding of Jerusalem. This period offers a detailed analysis of how God's active role in historical events culminates in a prophetic message about future kingdoms and their ultimate fate. This divine churning signifies a prophetic warning about coming judgment on earth. This chaos is a precursor to the final days when God will assert his absolute control over all kingdoms and nations. During the Babylonian Empire, there was a significant spiritual revival among the Jews exiled in Babylon. This period saw the writing of many psalms, expressing deep faith and longing for God's presence. Under Medo-Persian rule, the Jews experienced another spiritual awakening as they were allowed to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. This marked a crucial turning point in their religious history. The Greek Empire brought with it the spread of Hellenistic culture, which led to a blending of Jewish thought with Greek philosophy. This period saw an intellectual, spiritual awakening among Jewish scholars and thinkers. Finally, during the Roman Empire, Christianity emerged as a spiritual movement that would change the course of history. This awakening was driven by the teachings and life of Jesus Christ, who preached love, forgiveness, and salvation. By exploring these revivals, we see how God's prophetic message unfolds through time. Each awakening is a piece of the larger puzzle, reflecting his control and ultimate plan for humanity. These spiritual movements are not isolated incidents, but part of a grand narrative that culminates in the final judgment and establishment of God's eternal kingdom. Understanding this connection between historical periods and spiritual revivals deepens our appreciation for the intricate tapestry of God's work throughout history. As we reflect on these spiritual awakenings, we are reminded that our journey is part of a much larger story, one guided by the hand of God. In this grand narrative, every spiritual revival brings us closer to the ultimate fate of all kingdoms and the establishment of God's eternal reign. In the grand narrative of divine judgment, there are instances where God's mercy shines through. Let's explore how Daniel's vision reveals God's active role in historical events, culminating in a prophetic message about future kingdoms and their ultimate fate. Daniel's vision is a tapestry woven with precise divine timing. This is not merely a chronological account, but a revelation of God's active role in shaping history. The timing of their rule is not random, but divinely appointed. Scripture mentions a time, times, and half a time. This period signifies an exact duration for each kingdom's dominion. This specific timing is not just a chronological record, but a prophetic message about God's sovereignty. This transition marks the culmination of God's precise timing in historical events. Throughout the vision, God is not a passive observer, but an active participant, shaping the flow of history with exactitude. This is not just a story about time, but a revelation of divine providence and judgment. Historically, these winds have signified both chaos and order. In Revelation 7:1, they are held back until the servants of God are sealed. The four winds' role in biblical narratives is not merely destructive, they also herald the establishment of God's kingdom. This imagery underscores God's sovereignty over both death and the revitalization of his people. This is not a story of random chaos, but a revelation of God's providential guidance and judgment in our world. Babylon's moral legacy is marked by its grandeur and oppression. Under Nebuchadnezzar, the kingdom expanded territories and built remarkable structures like the Hanging Gardens and the Ishtar Gate. However, their power was wielded with cruelty and injustice. The capture of Judah and exile of its people showcases this dark side. The second beast, a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth, was Medo-Persia. This empire rose to prominence under Cyrus the Great, who famously freed the Jews from Babylonian captivity. Cyrus's decree was a beacon of mercy and justice, embodying God's will for restoration. Yet, the Medo-Persian Empire also had a dark side, marked by conquest and subjugation. Alexander's legacy is one of great cultural influence and brutal military tactics, reflecting both creativity and destruction under divine scrutiny. Finally, the fourth beast, terrifying and strong with iron teeth, symbolizes Rome. This empire brought unprecedented unity, but also immense oppression, exemplified by its persecution of Christians. Rome's moral legacy is a stark reminder of the consequences of power unchecked by divine authority. The empire's grandeur stood in contrast to its cruelty, echoing a theme from earlier kingdoms. Divine judgment links to the moral character of empires throughout history, a sobering lesson in divine sovereignty over kingdoms and nations. Historical records support this account. Nebuchadnezzar's reign was marked by both grandeur and humility, illustrating the cycles of redemption within his empire. Moving forward to the Greek Empire, we see yet another cycle of divine judgment and subsequent redemption. The story of Daniel in the lion's den is a poignant example. The earthquake that freed Paul and Silas signified divine redemption within the Roman context, reinforcing the cycles of judgment and salvation throughout history. As we consider these historical cycles, we are reminded that God's hand guides the course of human events and that redemption is always within his reach. The second wind sweeps in during the Medo-Persian period, when great empires like those of Cyrus and Darius expanded their reach across vast territories. This wind marks a critical shift in power dynamics, reflecting God's judgment on these worldly kingdoms. The third wind is associated with the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great. This period saw immense cultural and intellectual advancements, yet also witnessed fierce conflicts. The divine judgment here underscores God's sovereignty over human achievements and failures. Finally, the fourth wind heralds the rise of the Roman Empire. This empire, known for its expansive governance and law systems, faced numerous internal struggles and external threats. The divine judgment during this time highlights God's control over the ebb and flow of human power. But why these specific periods? The answer lies in their historical significance. Each of these empires played a crucial role in shaping the world's cultural, political, and religious landscapes. God's timing thus underscores his precision in orchestrating human history. In Daniel 7:23-24, we see the fourth beast's kingdom being destroyed by fire. This fiery judgment signifies the end of this worldly power structure and the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. The timing here is crucial. It indicates a shift from human to divine sovereignty. Think of it as a cosmic weather report, 4 winds from heaven, each blowing across the vast expanse of humanity. These aren't ordinary breezes, they're divine directives steering world events. Consider the Babylonian Empire, a titanic force whose power once seemed unbreakable. Yet, as history unfolds, we see a shift, the rise of Medo-Persia, then Greece and Rome. Each empire leaves its mark, architectural marvels, philosophical schools, military strategies, but each also crumbles under divine judgment. It's a pattern repeated through time. For instance, the Medes and Persians introduce innovations like the first postal system, yet their empire fractures as they're absorbed into Alexander's Greek realm. Greece brings us Socrates and Plato, but it too falls, overtaken by Rome. And Rome, with its grand aqueducts and law codes, eventually disintegrates under its own weight. Each successive empire isn't just a new power, it's a cultural metamorphosis. Like caterpillars transforming into butterflies, societies shift in response to judgment. Imagine this timeline as a grand tapestry, each thread representing an empire, each knot a cultural shift. God's hand is seen in the intricate pattern. As Daniel's vision unfolds, each beastly kingdom rises and falls like a tide against the shore, churned by the winds of heaven. This relentless motion signals more than just historical tumult. It heralds a divine judgment and the dawn of an eternal kingdom. Within this grand tapestry, God's hand is seen in more than just patterns. It promises a resurgence of righteousness. Historical instances illustrate this reversal. The Israelites' exodus from Egypt, marked by a moral awakening. Their journey through the wilderness was not just physical, it was a spiritual pilgrimage from bondage to liberation. As they received the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai, a new moral code was inscribed on their hearts. This divine law guided them not just as rules, but as a beacon of righteousness amidst desert trials. Another instance is the revival under King Josiah, who abolished idolatrous practices and restored true worship. His reforms were more than political. They re-established the moral compass of a nation that had lost its way. These historical reversals are not isolated events. They point to a larger prophetic narrative of moral decay and rebirth. This ultimate fate underscores God's active role in historical events and the triumph of divine will over human folly. As we consider this grand tapestry, each thread, though complex, weaves into a design of redemption and hope. Daniel's vision reveals God's active role in historical events through divine judgments that shape empires. This prophetic message isn't just about the past, it foretells the future of kingdoms and their ultimate fate. In his vision, Daniel describes 4 winds blowing from heaven, stirring up the great sea. This imagery signifies a divine judgment on earthly powers, an intervention that disrupts the status quo. Throughout the Bible, moral decay within empires often precedes their downfall. Consider the city of Nineveh in the book of Jonah. Despite its great size and wealth, it was known for its cruelty and injustice. When the people and even the king of Nineveh put on sackcloth and ashes in a show of repentance, God withheld his judgment. Similarly, the empire of Babylon rose to great prominence, but but eventually fell due to its moral corruption and pride. Each of these empires experienced moral decline before their eventual collapse, a pattern that aligns with the divine justice theme. The ultimate fate of these empires serves as a prophetic warning for future kingdoms. God's sovereignty ensures that moral decay will not go unpunished. Consider the case of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. After experiencing divine chastisement, living like a beast in the wilderness for 7 years, Nebuchadnezzar underwent a profound transformation. He acknowledged God's sovereignty over all kingdoms and praised the Most High, saying, "Blessed be the name of God from age to age, for wisdom and power are his." Daniel 4,000,000 thars. This personal reformation led to broader societal changes. Under Nebuchadnezzar's rule, Babylon witnessed significant cultural advancements and became a beacon of civilization. These acts of God serve as powerful reminders that his sovereignty extends over all nations and empires. As the prophetic message in Daniel reveals, moral decay will not go unpunished, and divine judgment is a continuous reality. Consider the Assyrian Empire, known for its brutal conquests and subjugation of neighboring peoples. Their actions left a deep moral scar. The Babylonian Empire, on the other hand, was renowned for its pride and self-aggrandizement, building towers to reach the heavens. The lessons from these historical judgments are clear. Pride and brutality lead to ruin. This prophetic message in Daniel's vision reminds us of the enduring impact of these moral failings on future kingdoms. As we look towards the establishment of the eternal kingdom, these lessons serve as a beacon. The eternal kingdom, promised to those who remain faithful, will be guided by righteousness and humility. And so, we are reminded that divine judgment is not an end in itself, but a means to shape the moral fabric of future generations. Think about the history of ancient Israel. After centuries of exile and captivity, the people were finally allowed to return home. This was not a sudden event, but a long process filled with challenges. Yet, God guided them through this journey of restoration. Over time, the returning exiles faced resistance and hardships. Yet, they persevered, guided by their faith in God's promise of restoration. The prophet Isaiah foresaw this time of rebuilding. They will be called the holy people, the redeemed of the Lord. This was a vision of Israel restored to its former glory. But restoration is not just about rebuilding structures, it's also about renewing hearts and minds. The prophet Ezekiel envisioned a new heart for the people of Israel. "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you." This spiritual revival was integral to their restoration. This pattern of divine judgment followed by restoration is not unique to Israel. Consider the story of Nineveh, a city renowned for its wickedness. Jonah preached that God would destroy the city unless they repented. The people of Nineveh heard Jonah's warning and responded with fasting and prayer. As a result, God spared them from destruction, marking another instance of divine restoration after judgment. This cycle of judgment and restoration reminds us that divine actions are not merely punitive, but redemptive. They serve to guide humanity back onto the right path. Ultimately, these historical instances point towards a larger truth, that God's reign is not just about power, but also about love and redemption. This is the ultimate fate of all kingdoms under his rule. Let's delve deeper into the historical events that reveal God's active role in shaping human history, as seen through Daniel's vision. These winds blowing across the Great Sea are not literal, but symbolize God's sovereignty and control over events on earth. Consider the fall of Babylon, a powerful empire known for its splendor and advanced culture. In 539 BCE, the Persian king Cyrus II conquered Babylon without a fight, fulfilling the prophecy given by Isaiah centuries earlier. This event marked the beginning of the Medo-Persian Empire, demonstrating how God orchestrates historical shifts to bring about his will. The rise of the Medo-Persian Empire was no mere coincidence. Cyrus II, known for his compassionate rule, allowed the Jews exiled in Babylon to return home and rebuild Jerusalem. This act was not just a humanitarian gesture, but a divine intervention, guiding history towards God's ultimate plan for his people. Fast forward to 336 BCE, when Alexander the Great of Macedon began his conquest of the Persian Empire. By the age of 30, he had created one of the largest empires in ancient history, stretching from Greece to Egypt and into India. Alexander's military prowess was extraordinary, but it was God who guided his path, ensuring that his message would spread across vast territories. Alexander's empire did not last long after his death, but the seeds of Greek culture he planted took root in various parts of the world. This dissemination of knowledge and philosophy was another example of divine intervention, furthering God's purpose for humanity's enlightenment and development. As these historical instances illustrate, God actively intervenes in human history to bring about his will. From the fall of Babylon to the rise of the Medo-Persian Empire and the expansive conquests of Alexander, we see a pattern where divine intervention shapes the course of world events towards a prophetic message about future kingdoms and their ultimate fate. These winds blowing across the Great Sea indicate God's active role in historical events, signaling that his sovereignty is at work behind every significant shift in human history. The prophetic vision seen by Daniel underscores this truth, reminding us of the divine hand guiding our world towards its destined end. One of the most significant events mentioned in Daniel's vision involves the fall of Babylon. This ancient city was a hub of wealth, culture, and power, but its decline marked a critical moment in history. The book of Daniel describes how Babylon's fall was not merely a human event, but one orchestrated by divine timing. God's active role ensured that the city met its end according to a higher plan. Yet amidst this narrative of divine judgment, there are moments of mercy that stand out like beacons in the night. For example, in the story of the Exodus, God's wrath is poured out on Egypt with a series of plagues culminating in the death of the firstborn sons. However, God instructs the Israelites to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb, sparing their firstborn from this judgment. Similarly, in Jonah's story, God plans to destroy the city of Nineveh for its wickedness. Yet when the people repent and turn from their evil ways, God relents from the disaster he had threatened to bring upon them. The narrative of Noah's Ark provides another instance where divine judgment is coupled with mercy. Before sending the flood to wipe out the corrupt world, God commands Noah to build an ark and save his family along with pairs of all living creatures. This act of obedience not only spares Noah, but also ensures the preservation of life on earth. This interplay of divine mercy, within the framework of judgment, deepens our understanding of God's role in historical events. It reminds us that even amidst upheaval and change, there is a thread of compassion that weaves through the tapestry of human history. This understanding enriches our perspective on God's active role, showing that his judgments are not merely acts of punishment, but also expressions of divine love and mercy, aimed at guiding humanity towards a path of righteousness. Following Babylon comes Medo-Persia, depicted as a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth and a message between its teeth. The bear's unusual structure signifies the complex political dynamics of Medo-Persia, where power is shared among multiple entities. The swiftness and agility of the leopard reflect Greece's rapid expansion and military prowess. Finally, Rome rises as a terrifying beast with 10 horns, signifying its extensive reach and formidable power. Among these empires, signs of divine redemption through earthly kingdoms can be glimpsed. Despite their flaws, these kingdoms play a vital part in God's redemptive narrative, ultimately pointing to his eternal reign. Throughout history, we see evidence of God's direct involvement in the rise and fall of empires. Despite their prosperity, the Babylonians faced divine judgment for their arrogance. Yet, even their expansive rule was subject to divine scrutiny and ultimate judgment. The Greek Empire followed, marked by intellectual brilliance and cultural influence. Still, their mighty reign was not exempt from divine correction and eventual decline. Even this colossal power was subject to divine oversight and ultimate dissolution. Daniel's vision underscores that despite their power, all earthly kingdoms are temporary. Babylonian power surged under Nebuchadnezzar, only to wane as Medo-Persia ascended. The Greek Empire followed, then Rome, each transition marked by God's active role in shaping history's tapestry. The Medo-Persian Empire, for instance, expanded under Cyrus the Great, whose reign was foretold by Isaiah. "He is my shepherd," a divine designation. His conquests were not chance, but part of God's plan. Similarly, Alexander the Great's swift rise to power was no accident. His empire laid groundwork for Rome. Even Rome, known for its grandeur and might, was governed by divine timing. "I will give you the kingdom," said Jesus in a parable about Rome's ruler. Each empire's lifespan, from ascent to decline, echoed God's orchestration. Babylonian rule lasted over a century, followed by the Medo-Persians, whose reign stretched another 2 centuries. Greece came next, with its cultural influence persisting for generations before Rome's long dominance. More than just chronological succession, this was divine timing at work, aligning empires with God's ultimate purpose, the establishment of his eternal kingdom. As each empire faded, it paved way for the next, moving closer to that final prophecy. God's active hand in historical empires reminds us of our place and responsibility within this grand narrative. Though kingdoms may rise and fall, the ultimate fate of humanity rests securely in God's divine plan.